It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great. Like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, superheroes, and other stuff, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, Superman tickets are on sale. You can get your Superman tickets. That is going to be here before we know it. I realized this when I was buying tickets. I'm like, oh, damn, we are like 2 weeks away, maybe 3 at most. Well, maybe, yeah, 3 for me because I got the Tuesday ones, but I mean, we're going to be watching DCU kick off, Mike, before we know it at the end of the week, next month. If you're not familiar with Mr. Miracle, get ready because he's getting his own TV series.
Great. This is why I do this podcast, so you can tell me who these people are.
Exactly. It's miraculous. He's getting his own show. God damn it, I hate myself. Moving on. A Spaceballs sequel is officially in the works. I know we've talked about this before. Why are you guys talking about this now? But this is something that is essentially, I would say, shaped my humor and my knowledge of franchises for the past 38 years and more. Welcome back, Mike.
You know, I'm back. I'm not dead. I'm celebrating Father's Day here on the mic.
Happy Father's
with
Day,
Chris. Well, thank you very much. It's been an intermittent podcasting month for me, but I'm glad to be back. Thanks for filling in for me last week, Jim. I appreciate that. Quite the super fan. Comes in clutch whenever I fall down a deep well of infectious diseases. I was the first domino to fall in the house last week. And I was quarantined for about 12 hours until everyone else in the house started getting sick. And I was like, well, hey, that means I don't have to be stuck in the bedroom anymore. But the brief moment while I was in the bedroom, I did get to finish Andor, which was great. Because I was on that last episode. I was about 20 minutes into the last episode. And then I realized, I would really like to watch the beginning of Rogue One, like right after I finished the last episode. So I had to kind of build in this extra time to finish season 2 of Andor. So I was like, well, this is the time to do it. I'm all locked in this room. Let's go. So I got to finish the last episode and rolled right into Andor. And
Rogue One.
It was Rogue One. And it wasn't as smooth as kind of I thought it was. I watched the Honest trailer for Andor Season 2, and they hit the nail on the head where everyone in the Andor TV show is way smarter than the characters that exist in Rogue One. And they're not necessarily dumb in Rogue One, but everyone has so many more, like, layers of delicious personality in the Andor show, and everyone kind of gets flattened when you watch them in Rogue One. So it's kind of like Whiplash going from one to another, because you just have all of this emotional attachment to the character of Andor, and then he ends up kind of being the side character in the movie. So It's like, no, I don't care about Jaina, so show me more Andor. So that was kind of wild to see that transition, and plus you're kind of going back in time with the actors. But
10 years, 9 or 10 years at this point, I think.
I know it's wild, but Andor Season 2 is a masterpiece. I love it. It's amazing. Chris, I know you were saying you're eventually going to get around to it, but it's awesome storytelling. I thought the time jumps in between the episode kind of chapters that they put together were like very satisfying to kind of see where people were, how they developed between the year-long gaps, and it was amazing. So Andor was so much fun. Looking forward to you finishing it, Chris, at some point.
Eventually, yeah.
In the future.
I mean, I might just take up huffing that gas that. What's his name?
Is it Rhino or Rhinox or what's that?
Rhodium.
Gas
is it Rhodium? Rhodium gas?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
It's very explosive because it was in the Clone Wars before even Rogue One and what's his name Saw even had it. So I kept seeing a lot of because I'm obviously Clone Wars. I've seen all that, and like I get a lot of the crossover, and I'm like, yep, that explains why he's so unhinged later on. So, and also I don't know if you played the Fallen Order games or the Jedi games from EA. Saw is a big part of those as well. But
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But Andor is great. It's kind of sad to see it go because it kind of feels like we're officially closing maybe that chapter of Star Wars, and it's like, oh, but they were doing such good stuff.
I don't know if you are. I don't know if it's closed, but it's like I don't think they planned on it being that successful, right? At the end of the day,
yeah.
And it takes time to spin things up like that. So I don't think it's done, but I think we might be in a pause before we get something else similar.
Yeah, and I'm really curious what Tony Gilroy's future looks like, because he's been going on like his victory lap press tour with Andor season 2, and he's totally unfiltered. He acts as if he doesn't care if he ever works in Hollywood ever again. He'll throw anyone under the bus when he's just talking about how he made this show, and it's great. I love him for it. But also at the same time, it's just like he made the best Star Wars thing in a really, really, really long time. So if you were Disney, I would think, let's keep him around doing more Star Wars stuff, but I don't get the feeling from Gilroy that he wants to stick around. But maybe there could be like a trade on the table. Like, hey, if you kind of launch a new Star Wars franchise with us, we'll give you like a blank check to make whatever thing you've ever wanted to make in your career or something like that. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if you saw Andor.
Well, I don't know if you saw the interview. Like even like the Star Wars execs were like, for Disney Plus, and it's like streaming is essentially dead. Television is dead for Star Wars because like there's no money to be made in it, right? Like we've talked about this. Like we've talked about this for years. The streaming bubble burst. They found out subscriber numbers can only go so high, and there's only so much returns, right? For everything that has to share it. And I think someone told him early on, like not Kathleen Kennedy, no a major player, but someone like a producer on the show was after season 1. They were like, yeah, streaming's essentially dead for Star Wars, and that's probably like salted them a little bit, right? Like, yeah, okay, I guess. And with the right, things change obviously. Look at Marvel and what Iger's done to kind of come in and say, hey, let's fix this stuff. Doesn't mean it's off the table, but I would say he's a little jaded to your point, right, about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll keep you guys posted if we hear anything. That's for sure. I wouldn't count it out. I wouldn't maybe not this era, but I wouldn't put, hey, Tony Gilroy doing something Star Wars related off the table ever again.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate because there is a tantalizing segue right off of Andor if we wanted to go into our first news topic.
Let's not do things efficiently. Let's do it the hard way. Bring it on.
But unfortunately, I did stream a movie last night on Apple Plus that won't segue well into talking about Spaceballs. But there was a new, very premium, expensive action movie called The Fountain of Youth on Apple Plus, starring John Krasinski, what's her name, Natalie Portman, a few other familiar faces in the movie, and this movie sits perfectly on your shelf next to The Da Vinci Code and National Treasure. It is like the exact type of movie where it's not going to blow you out of the water with like sophisticated storytelling, but you'll get some fun romps and adventures across the globe and some puzzles and some artifacts that need to be stolen and analyzed. And John Krasinski has like this he has like a kind of a bit of an aloof personality, but also kind of feels like Nathan Drake inspired from the video game franchise. So, I mean, if you have Apple Plus, from, I don't know, buying like a new pair of AirPods or something, and they give you like a 3-month trial, I would give it a watch. I think it would be fun. If you have like family over, you need something fun to throw on that everyone's going to have a good time with. I don't know if I'd say go out of your way and get an Apple Plus subscription just for this movie, but if you're finishing Silo, have a couple days left on your sub, finishing Severance Season 2, check out The Fountain of Youth. It was fun. The wife and I both...
I would say, to your point, there's tons of stuff on Apple Plus other than this. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't signed up for it, you're going to get a lot of good content at the end of the day. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah. The wife and I simultaneously agreed that we would watch a sequel to this movie with these characters, but then also on the way to bed last night we were nitpicking like everything in this movie. Like, well, why the hell did they do that? That made no sense. Why didn't they just do this instead? Why was it over here? Why did they need to go to this part of the world? So like we were like mad at the movie, but also like, hey, we'd watch another one.
Yeah, but I think that's something that's good though. Even though it's not perfect, you guys still talked about it. You still thought about it later. Which is great. Mm-hmm. Like that's a sign of something like, yeah, it's not perfect, but yeah, you said, yeah, we'd watch another one. It wasn't perfect, but you still watch another one. I mean, that's usually a good sign at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was also it was a Guy Ritchie movie. So there's definitely some very iconic Guy Ritchie films out there, and it feels like a Guy Ritchie movie.
It gave me Sahara vibes mixed with like National Treasure, if I was going to say.
I could see that.
What I saw from the trailers, like, oh, it looks like, hey, this is a Sahara film, but also they're doing a Tomb Raider or something. So yeah, I told Mike I about watched it last night myself. I sat down and I was like, yeah, I'll do that because I wanted to watch Mission Impossible, but that's a 3-hour movie, and I was like, there is no way in hell am I sitting down for a 3-hour movie, and that just talked me out of every other movie I wanted to watch because I was tired of thinking about 3-hour movies.
Yep, and then you realize you've wasted 20 minutes just trying to make a decision, and you're like, I'll just put on Futurama.
Yeah,
something easy.
I wouldn't put on Futurama. No, not at all. Actually, with the advent of all the Fox animation domination taking over Fortnite lately, Mike, with even so much you've heard about Hank Hill and Bob Belcher and Cleveland Brown coming into Fortnite, you were like. Yeah, it's even hit your feed is kind of interesting. But no, actually, I turned on the original Spaceballs instead because I'm going to make a segue in here because I watched Spaceballs this week because they announced the sequel. They've announced the sequel before. Josh Gad said he's working on it like a year or 2 years ago, but they officially put out a video with Mel Brooks saying we're doing Spaceballs 2 coming in 2027. And in true Mel Brooks fashion, this Spaceballs thing obviously parodies the Star Wars intro crawls, but then also skewers literally the past 38 years of films, including the MCU, the DCU's attempt again, Star Wars movies, prequels, sequels, Harry Potter, Dune, other franchises right out the gate. This was really fun to see. I'm hesitant to say, hey, go back to a franchise after 38 years. Mel Brooks is pushing 99, I think, this year or next year. But boy, did this feel like coming home hearing this announcement and watching this, Mike. I grew up watching a lot of the Mel Brooks movies. This, Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm trying to think of... I didn't watch Young Frankenstein, but we did watch the Western one. Oh, my gosh. I'm drawing a blank.
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles, there it is. So I don't know if you grew up in the same kind of humorous watching these movies or not, but this felt good to me because I enjoy Spaceballs movies. They're funny and it was cheap humor at the time.
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely a fan of Spaceballs growing up, and if I remember correctly, it's been so long since I've seen the movie. They obviously lean into Star Wars, but I think they are also leaning a little bit into Star Trek. There's like a scene where they're doing like Alien as well, so
yeah.
they're doing like a little bit of everything, but the main kind of framework is Star Wars. So and I didn't realize that Rick Moranis was coming back because this announcement trailer ends with a kind of a shot of Darth Helmet. Was that his name, right?
Yes, it's Dark Helmet, and it's artwork
Dark Helmet
done by Boss Logic, who was asked to create the artwork for it.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So when I saw that they're prominently featuring that, I was like, well, that Rick Moranis has got to come back, right? And he's kind of like iconic and legendary for like leaving Hollywood to like just be a family man, and now they're bringing him back in. So obviously I'm nervous, right? Because this is such an iconic movie in film comedy history and like satirical skewerings and everything. And how often does this work, right? When you go back to the well and bring something back. the trailer for the new Naked Gun movie looks very promising with Liam Neeson. So maybe, I don't know, maybe these type of revivals can work. Maybe studios have kind of figured out the code, the crack.
Well, we talk about movies ebbing and flowing, right? Everything's hinged on tent poles and blockbusters. We've kind of forsaken the cheaper comedies, right? The parodies, scary movies coming back as well. Spaceballs, like you mentioned, the Naked Gun. Like it feels like there's a swing the other direction for cheap comedies that are needed to kind of rake in some money for these studios or be successful. But again, 38 years of movie franchises to skewer in the meantime, not just Star Wars. That is exciting to see how they kind of do this. I wouldn't count Mel Brooks out. He's, what was it? History of the World Part 2 came out on Hulu a couple years ago as well. And for those who don't know, there was a Spaceballs animated series that came out in 2008, 2009, I believe, maybe on FX, one of those channels. That he actually directed the writing for as well, with a lot of the original actors returning to voice their characters. And that brings me to the next point. Mel Brooks, Bill Pullman, and Rick Moranis are going to reprise their roles from the original ones as Yoghurt, Lonestar, and Dark Helmet, as you mentioned. And
that'll be exciting.
Exactly. And one of the writers, there's like 4 writers on this. Josh Gad will be one of the main actors in this. I assume he's going to probably play like the son of Barf, the late John Candy. He seems like someone who would fit into that. Keke Palmer was announced as one of the actresses. I think she would be a good shoe-in for, oh my gosh, the lady who voiced the robot. She was the comedian. I gotta look this up because I'm having one of those days. Let's see here. Joan Rivers. She could be a good Joan Rivers shoe-in with her comedy take. And then obviously Lewis Pullman, the Century himself, joining the cast, son of Bill Pullman. Wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe like a long lost son of Bill Pullman's character, Lonestar, as well, because they look so much alike. So
that could be fun, and then maybe Lewis Pullman's character is trying. Figuring out what side of the Schwartz he wants to be.
I mean, especially as well as the latest 3 Star Wars movies have been received, Mike. They definitely wouldn't roast those in any way, shape, or form.
No, absolutely.
No, but you mentioned that you were nervous about this. I'm not nervous about this. You know why I'm not nervous, Mike? Because I have no skin in the game. Even if this doesn't work, I'll just watch the original. And I'm going to use the euphemism. One of my favorite films of all time is Dumb and Dumber because it's just funny. I grew up watching it, and there's little things in it, and it just works out because of the chemistry between the actors and the story. When they made Dumb and Dumber or Dumb and Dumber 2, there's a prequel and a sequel. When they made those suck, Mike. It's not very fun. They're not good to watch. But I never think about them. I just go back to the original. So even if this one doesn't land, I still think the original one still holds up after all this time. With that and all the good stuff that kind of comes along thinking about that movie. But anyways, you can watch the video announcement for that with all the franchises and Mel Brooks even saying, I thought it was funny, Mike. He's like, we asked the fans what do they want, and he's like, well, we're not doing what the fans want. We're actually just going to make Spaceballs 2, which I thought was a real fun way to kind of be like, yeah, we know it's not what everybody kind of wants to do. And I don't know if you know this, back in 2013, Rick Moranis said he pitched the idea of Spaceballs 3, the search for Spaceballs Part 2, to Mel Brooks, who turned it down at the time. Like you said, it's fun to have Rick Moranis back, thinking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, Superman, the movie. Again, this is like the 4th iteration of Superman at this point on the big screen. Tickets for the movie are now on sale. Mike, you got yours for that weekend. I got mine.
I got my tickets. I'm ready to go. Unfortunately, Chris, your ticket prediction date was just, I think, the day after the tickets went on sale. Yeah. But it was close, though. You didn't hit the bullseye, but you were right on the outer edge.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm pretty sure it was oh yeah, I said the 11th. and it ended up being the 10th. Amazon put up their ticket screenings well before they didn't really announce it. This just kind of came up. Go to Amazon.com/Superman, and you could go see a screening locally. It's not on Amazon Prime. It's not anything affiliated with Amazon when you get there. But they show all the a bunch of theaters near us that you can do that Tuesday at like 7:30 screening in your area. It's not limited to IMAX as they kind of originally alluded to. So if you want to go see it in Tuesday and they still have screen tickets, go check that out. Otherwise, see it that weekend. This will be a big movie. I think, for July we have Jurassic World, Jurassic Park 7, Superman, and Fantastic Four. I do think that this one opening weekend will probably best Fantastic Four, Mike, simply because I don't know if the regular people have as much bad taste in their mouth for Superman as maybe the most recent Fantastic Four movie from like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. But I'm excited to see this. And then with this came a final trailer. Mike, I don't know if you're watching trailers or not. You're probably going to come across some of these clips in your social media because they've cut some of these. There's some action scenes. You get to see some laser eye scenes, some other stuff. I must applaud James Gunn. And I think I said this last week and when you weren't here. He technically controls DCU, so I guarantee you he's overseen all the trailer cuts, right? Like since he doesn't answer to anybody else. I guarantee you he's in there cutting all the trailers because I don't feel this trailer gives anything away, despite the fact that it is the final trailer. Caveat: all the TV spots are going to start dropping this week, so avoid those like the plague because those are an entirely different beast.
Yeah, I've decided to not watch the ticket trailer because I was like, well, if they already got my money, I already bought the tickets. I don't need to participate in the trailer. We'll be seeing this movie no matter what. But I have a feeling that this is going to be big because you can never just discount the recognizability of a character like Superman. Sometimes I feel like we get really in the weeds about like, oh, how excited we are about the, seeing the Fantastic Four again on screen. Oh, we finally got to see the Sentry come to life on the big screen. And then it's just like, oh yeah, this is just Superman. Like, it doesn't matter who's directing it. It doesn't matter if it's interconnected to a larger world. People are just like, Superman, I know that guy. It's been a while since I've seen a Superman movie. Here, take my $15, for a movie ticket. Let's go. So, I think it'll be a successful weekend.
Absolutely. There is one scene I'm going to tell you, Mike, because it is. I don't know if it'll make the final movie, and I'm actually surprised it was in a trailer. And I just want to get your take on it. The Green Lantern, you know how we saw in the last trailer, he like uses his hand to like knock stuff aside. With that, he actually does a middle finger in one of the trailer, and I'm like, can they do that on trailers these days? I don't want to sound prude because it doesn't offend me, but I'm like, boy, that's kind of pushing the envelope of what you put out for a trailer without having a red bandit, right? Like, I don't know. It was just weird to see that. I was like, huh. I guess they don't really care. Maybe is that their one? Is that every PG-13 movie gets one fuck, and is that the one they're using for
yeah, maybe
this movie? They're giving something to Nathan Fillion to do over there. They're like, you wear the bowl cut, but you got to say the F word. He's like, all right, I'll do it. Take one for the team. James Gunn is also out. I don't know if he's out anywhere or if he's just doing social media stuff, but he did confirm that this will have post-credit scenes. So stay after for both movies. Only movie currently in production right now that we know of is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. My guess is that this one of the post-credit scenes ties to that, and one probably sets up Superman 2. Mike, is that probably fair enough to guesstimate that?
I mean, this is definitely going to be one of those movie experiences where we start to get into the third act and I go, oh, there's post-credit scenes coming up. Oh, I'm getting excited because I just want to see what they're hinting at. They could take the strategy of maybe teasing a larger enemy, kind of like how, the Avengers teased like Thanos.
Brainiac would be awesome. Like, I would love to see, I don't want to see Darkseid. I want to see Brainiac. Like, I don't know if you ever played the Injustice video games, but Injustice 2, Brainiac was the villain, and I would love to see them actually use a Superman villain other than Zod or, I guess threaten us with Darkseid. But anyway, sorry, that kind of got me hyped there for a little bit.
Yeah, so I feel like it's been a minute, right? Since I've been super excited about a superhero movie, even if I end up liking them. Like, I liked Thunderbolts, but I wouldn't say I was excited as I am for Superman coming up. I just like the idea of something new starting, right? We have this whole new universe to take a stab at. They have so much runway in front of them. They have so many iconic characters that they get to like reestablish and like reintroduce to us, and we're like so deep into the like the Marvel bucket now that I can't even reach the lid anymore. So I'm not saying you can't get good content or out of that, but it's just two totally different formulas. So I'm excited to try something new.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that kind of brings me to our next point. Is while I am excited for this, they need to speed up their DCU output. Not necessarily, it doesn't need to be connected, but Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker, all 3 James Gunn written properties in 1 year. It's fine. He's in charge of it. He can hire and fire himself all day long. But we need more things from DCU. They promised us Gods and Monsters. The only other movie I know they're working on is Clayface, right? That we know is officially announced, Clayface, and that wasn't even in that initial announcement. I don't know if we'll ever get some of those things ever again, but one of the things they did not announce that they said they're working on is a Wonder Woman for the DCU, and James Gunn confirms this week that Wonder Woman is in the process being written in DCU. He did not say who the writer was. Do you think he's writing Wonder Woman as well? Like, you think? Like, I'm serious. I'm not. I don't want to sound facetious. I was being mean earlier about him hiring and firing himself. But do you think this is like his next thing is writing Wonder Woman?
I can't imagine there's going to be a single DC movie that James Gunn doesn't write something for, right? Whether he does a treatment, whether he's doing punch up or something. I just feel like he's the type of person that just can't take his hands off of something.
Well, I'm not going to include anything other than main writing credit, because he did not do that. As far as we know, Supergirl, he did not do that with. It is written by Anna Nogueira and Tom King. So do you think, though, he would be the person who writes Wonder Woman as his next project after Superman?
I mean, I don't think it's sustainable, in my opinion, for him to just keep writing these movies. He's got to run a whole studio, right? Even if I think he's like super talented and has the ability to turn out pages, he's got to let go of the reins. Like, if Peter Safran is going to be moving over to another slice of Warner Brothers, right? He's going to be down a man over there. He's going to have more to oversee, more responsibilities. So in my opinion, I would like to see him not write the Wonder Woman movie. I think also it's Wonder Woman. I feel like we've kind of set the precedent now that get a female writer, get a female director. That seems to be maybe the best way to accomplish that character. Mm-hmm. But I was looking up kind of like a short list to see kind of what's everyone thinking, right, for the casting of this character, because I think it's safe to say Gal Gadot is not coming back. It would be a weird decision, be like she's already had a couple. She's had 2 movies and 1,000 cameos since Wonder Woman.
Peacemaker. I mean, they kind of keep bringing him back with him.
Yeah, that's true.
But I know it's a little different. But maybe Jennifer Holland, James Gunn's wife, will be cast as the role.
Well, I saw 2 ideas that kind of captivated me and they both have projects out in the world right now. Ana de Armas from The Ballerina. I saw her up there at the top of a fan list, and that feels good to me. Seasoned action star. Feels like she could take anything they throw at her on set. I feel like it kind of fits I feel like she would fit well in Themyscira. Like, if I dropped her on that island, I feel like it works. And then also I saw at the top of a list, I didn't know her name because I only know her from Andor as Bix, but it's Adria Arjona. I'm sure I'm pronouncing her last name wrong, but she was side by side with Cassian Andor in those first 2 seasons, and she's great. She was a powerhouse. She was definitely throwing some punches. So I would be happy to see any of them get promoted to Wonder Woman.
The third one I saw was Melissa Barrera. She started the new Scream movies. Is that? I would say the only thing against Ana de Armas is, and they kind of lean into this a little bit in the John Wick movie, is she's not a very big person. Like, she's not very, Wonder Woman's like a taller, like, I think she's like 6'2", or no, 6'6" in the comic books.
Okay. I could maybe see that being detrimental.
It's not necessarily anything against her acting skills or abilities, but I think they would probably choose someone just a little taller with that. So I nothing against that. And then obviously they're going with someone like, who looks like they could be based out of Greece, right? Olive tone skin kind of thing to fit the role. So for me, I don't care who it is. The last bad actor I think cast in DC was Jared Leto. And not necessarily because it's Jared Leto, it doesn't help, but the role they gave him was just not the Joker, if you will. But like, I think they'll cast a good actress. I just hopefully they do a good story, because they know one of the projects announced for Gods and Monsters was that TV show Paradise Lost, right? That on Themyscira. No word on that happening either. I just wish they would get something in works, Mike. Like, even if it's like 90%, not 100%. Like, hey, let's get this spun up a little bit, because we're going into Superman. Guess what? Superman's been around, I think he said 3 years by the time the movie starts. So we're in a lived universe. We don't need a lot of origin stories, right? You could probably work on a lot of these movies and projects and characters and get them up and going pretty quick.
I'll throw one more actress into the mix, because I just watched her last night in The Fountain of Youth. Eliza Gonzalez. She's in everything all of the time, and she's always punching something. So I'll throw her into the mix.
Was she in? Oh my gosh, that Vin Diesel movie Bloodshot.
I think. Yeah, was she the one with the vents in her neck, like the character that had like that power?
Yeah, she was in Bloodshot, Godzilla vs. Kong. You mentioned Fountain of Youth. She's got a couple other movies coming up. Three Body Problem. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's great in that. She's always popping up in everything. So I would take her promotion to Wonder Woman as well.
Alita Battle Angel, Hobbs and Shaw, Baby Driver. I mean, I mean, there's some stuff in here that's not necessarily I know about, but none of this stuff is like, oh, I'm cringing from her. So that couldn't be too bad either. A lot of Hispanic people, actresses up for this role. Nothing wrong with that, obviously, actresses, but that's interesting that almost all of them came across that way. Moving on to another new DC project announced with an image even. This is just throwing this whole announcement panel they had years ago out the door, Mike, is what I feel. And they should just come back and be like, hey, we learned some lessons, here's what we're going with. But Mr. Miracle is getting an animated series from DC Studios. And I'm just going to read you the synopsis. We don't have a lot on this. But the series follows a character known as Scott Free. All right, I didn't make this pun, Mike. This is part of the character. Known worldwide as Mr. Miracle, the greatest escape artist who ever lived. With his wife, Big Barda, it's 2025, should we call her that? Scott seemed to have built the perfect life on Earth until everything began to unravel. As war erupts between the planets Apocalypse and New Genesis, Scott's adoptive father, Darkseid, has apparently obtained the anti-life equation, a devastating force capable of dominating the universe. With carnage escalating on both sides, Mr. Miracle becomes the last hope to end the conflict and restore peace. But the power of the anti-life equation might already be affecting Scott's mind, distorting his reality and threatening the happiness he shares with Barda. So, for those who may not know Mr. Miracle, Mr. Miracle,
it's a mouthful.
Yeah, he had a recent award-winning comic book run by Tom King, who also is writing Supergirl's based on Tom King, and he's also, I think, writing Lanterns. So James Gunn is leaning on DC Comics writer Tom King for a lot of his projects, Mr. Miracle specifically. When you look at him, you're like, boy, he kind of looks like the Vision a little bit in his color scheme. Mm-hmm. But that's his outfit. He's like a normal person under the outfit. His wife, Big Barda, was supposed to be, I think she's like part of the New Gods, like the dark side thing for the New Gods movie that I can't think of her name, was working on for a while. I'll come to it later. But, this is very much they've come to live on Earth, these two powered, I guess the biggest escape artist and Big Barda, who's a new god. They might have to go back to space, it sounds like, at some point to kind of deal with this. I don't know if it's going to follow the comic book or if they're going to set something new up, Mike. This is kind of interesting to me. the animation style is also essentially the Creature Commando studio is doing this. Has any of this sparked an interest in you? Because like this is like a deep cut for people who don't read comic books.
Well, I do find it interesting that the anti-life equation seems to have been demoted to an animated series in the DCU. The last time we saw it, it was supposed to be this big thing that Snyder was, at least wanting to build up to, which actually was the anti-life equation in the Joss Whedon cut, or was it only in his cut of Justice League? I don't remember. But it's this big thing that's supposed to, destroy everything, not unlike the Infinity Stones. And it's funny that it's just kind of like now it's like, oh, we'll just put it in this Mr. Miracle animated show, and I'll be curious to see if it makes it out of it. I know these are all supposed to be like interconnected, so I guess it could weave its way into the films, but yeah, it's a bit of a downgrade for something that's supposed to destroy all life. But I mean, I like Creature Commandos. I didn't have any ill will finishing it and wrapping it up. I enjoyed the art style. I'm curious to see how these animated stories go in this DC universe, because the production pipeline of these animated shows take a bit. There's a lot of pre-production, production, post-production. They just take a long time. Mm-hmm. So I'm always curious to see how they'll fit in.
Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out if they Tom King is show running and executive producing this one. I'm trying to see if they had anybody else on this. Nothing else was on this. I don't see anybody else like assigned to this other than Tom King. So I was hoping they'd have some more. So it's probably a little ways out. Kind of relegating the New Gods and Space People to an animated thing is kind of interesting. It's kind of a bold choice, especially because we're going to be dealing with space people, aliens, and space proper in Supergirl. I could see maybe some of the characters coming across that, but I saw a bunch of very weird takes on this. They're like, oh, whoever they cast in animation to voice these is going to play them in real life. I just want to go say James Gunn may have said that at one point, but that is not true. And I'm going to point to Clayface being in Creature Commandos, voiced by Alan Tudyk, but not being played by Alan Tudyk in the upcoming movie. So even if they get someone to voice Darkseid, that doesn't mean who he's going to play Darkseid in a later movie down the road. I think Darkseid, also not just the anti-life question, but Darkseid being relegated to animation first rather than building towards a Justice League thing is maybe a downgrade as well, if you will. Mm-hmm. So the anti-life equation is a little more obscure thing. That's not going to pass the mom test, right? If you ask her, Darkseid probably won't either. But if you showed him a picture, hey, this is the bad guy. You look at Darkseid, like, yeah, that's a bad guy. So I don't know what to think about this. I just wish they would come back and be like, hey, we changed our minds on what we're doing with the DCU. Here's some things that didn't work. Here's some things that are working, and kind of give us a better direction, because both announcing Mr. Miracle and Wonder Woman kind of offhand, or I guess at the Annecy Film Festival, which is animated in France, is not really giving me confidence that they have a plan, Mike. It seems like they're just like, hey, we want to do this thing, let's do it. And that's fine if they want to say, hey, we're just kind of winging it. But the initial announcements for Gods and Monsters, Mr. Miracle, he's a new god. Big, that makes sense. Wonder Woman is a god. Kind of ties into that, but none of those other shows are like The Authority, Paradise Lost, Swamp Thing's kind of on the back burner as well. Where are those going to come from? So I just wish I had a little bit more insight into the bigger picture. And like you said, how does this play into that big picture, right? Is this going to set these characters up to bring them in later, or is it just going to be like, hey, they'll always be in animation because we don't have the ability to bring them into our movies in the interim? But that's not the only Warner Brothers problem we got this week, Mike. Here's a big one for you. I'm sure you saw this, is that Warner Brothers is splitting up its broadcast and movie studios into two separate companies. And they're giving all the debt from the film companies to the broadcast company. Big business, making some big swings over there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure somebody with a business experience could attempt to explain it to me. But I just never understood that, like, you just move the debt, but like they didn't make the debt, so I don't understand how it can just be transferred. But okay, I guess go off, Wall Street, do what you got to do. The funniest thing about this to me is the last I heard from Disney, which would probably be like their closest like Hollywood counterpart, right, was there was all these rumors for years swirling of just like, oh, they're going to divest from ABC. They're going to sell off their linear broadcast television because broadcast TV is dead. And then after Warner Brothers announced this deal that like, oh, no, we're going to do that. We're going to spin this off and we're, I guess, saddle with all this debt. Then I think Bob Iger was on some sort of interview and he was just like, oh, no, we actually think our broadcast arm is our most unique asset and we would never get rid of it. So it makes me go like, okay, well, what's the strategy? Do we want to get rid of our like basic television channels or are we not? But I think Zaslav is just doing anything to make it look like he's working, Well, like everyone loves to hate him and so do I. But you can't say he's at least not trying to do things. They just never work, and he's bad at his job.
He is off because they just merged with Discovery, which was a broadcast station. They just changed the name from HBO to now HBO to Max, and then literally, I'm pretty sure I saw, and I couldn't confirm if this is true or not, but someone said this is the same guy who suggested him to merge this together is the one telling him to split it up, like as a business. So I'm like, are they even doing anything other than just shuffling things forward and backwards? Like, I'm sure financially, like we talked about, like we don't know. We're not in the big boardrooms here, but I'm sure there's some sort of financial benefit to sliding things around dollars, because obviously the movie studios take a lot to spin up and to spend, and they may not make all that money back. I don't know of any other Warner Brothers movies that have come out this year. I don't want to speak incorrectly on that. But like, television can sell ads and make up a bunch of stuff, so it's probably got a better way to recoup those losses. But
I think I saw that one of the branches that's separating is Discovery Plus, which I just thought was really, really funny. Like, nobody wants that. Like, what is that going to do all on its own? Isn't all that content supposed to be on HBO Max anyway? So there's just some things that are being split off that I'm just curious.
That were just merged. They've not even
it's like
2
this
years.
is just like a weird line item, and it's always depressing because every title or brand of something, there's like hundreds of people that work behind it that don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and then also, in a sign of good faith, it didn't really mean anything, but the majority of shareholders of Warner Brothers voted not to give Zaslav his pay and bonuses this year. You saw that a couple weeks ago. So obviously, that's just like them saying, hey, we actually don't think you should pay him. Doesn't mean that it'll actually come to fruition of that much money, but like that is a faith that people are like, he sucks and we don't believe in his leadership. So I don't think that this is going to sway them back in the good graces direction. But do not be surprised. This is where I would tell people, if you're Mike, and this will affect you maybe a little bit. If you are a streaming only person and there are Warner Brothers things or things under the Warner Brothers umbrella, Cartoon Network, stuff like that, things that you enjoy, download them or buy them on physical disc as fast as you can, because they're going to start I've seen them already start cutting things on streaming as they move back. So if you enjoy things and it's on the chopping block, be prepared to not find that.
I wanted to watch some Steven Universe the other day, and I was like, Steven Universe, Cartoon Network? All right, head on over to HBO Max, and I can see Adventure Time's there. No Steven Universe, weirdly enough. I can stream it on Hulu, which is owned by Disney, so it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. One of the things I saw them do, and this is more relevant to us, because do you remember the cartoon show back in the 90s? Which literally kicked off Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, Dexter Lab. They've cut all that off of streaming as well. They just nixed that, both seasons of that as well. So I was like, well, need to find a backup copy of all that to download in case I ever want to revisit some of that stuff along the way. Let's shift some gears into Marvel. Mike, we talked the other week about, for Avengers Doomsday, they're looking to cast Ghost Rider, right? In that movie. We talked about that. The rumor is that this Ghost Rider will be the leader of the Midnight Suns team when that film comes to the MCU, rather than Blade.
I wonder how many times people pull up ChatGPT, load in all of our content, and somebody do a search. How many times have we discussed Midnight Suns on this show? It's crazy. At one point in time, we all thought there was going to be this like dark underbelly of Marvel that would already be established and on screen, and we'd have these characters already. And then the game didn't help either. Like when the game came out and people were a little bit more familiar with the IP, like, oh, this is it. Yep. We're gonna get it all, and then we can't even get a Blade movie off the ground. So,
well, I
think introducing a character like Ghost Rider first is helpful, because we were just talking about the recognition of a character like Superman. I mean, obviously Ghost Rider is not on the same level, but he's been established with films and TV appearances, so it'd be a little easier to get him off the ground than, say, maybe some other characters that might show up in Midnight Suns.
Yeah, I don't think they make Wolfman or Werewolf by Night or Man-Thing the main characters. We talked about Wong being on the team, Ghost Rider. It just kind of goes to show me that the faith in Blade after 6 years of announcements is waning even more. Not necessarily that it won't come out and it won't be good. They just don't have I don't think they have a solid plan for him anymore. And I wish I could go back and hear what that plan was back in 2019 when they were like, "Yeah, we have a lot of faith in this. We have an actor. We have all this stuff lined up. Let's see what we can do." But it just kind of makes me feel, hey, we're going to do Ghost Rider. We don't even have a Ghost Rider movie. No one's even talked about a Ghost Rider movie. But we want him to be, the leader of the Midnight Suns. That'll probably be it. I also think Ghost Rider's a little more visually appealing than Blade. If I could be honest, when I see Ghost Rider, I know I'm looking at Ghost Rider. When I see Blade, could just be a cool guy with sunglasses on. I don't know.
True.
When Ghost Rider's there. So, and I think I don't. If they were going to do Ghost Rider, would you want to see the Ghost Rider that with the car, the Robbie Reyes version, or would you want to see the original Johnny? It's Nicolas Cage. What's his Johnny Blaze version? If you were going to get one,
I think if you're gonna start, you go with the strongest. You go with Johnny Blaze, and then if you can get something going, with a franchise, you can develop to Reyes.
Yeah, I think the car is really cool, but it's just, and this fire mohawk is pretty cool. But you got to build up to that. I think everybody knows Nicolas Cage's version.
I'll pitch something. I mean, I don't know if this ever happens within the comic books, or if it's very rigid. If you become the Ghost Rider, are you kind of permanently tied to one vehicle? I think it'd be sweet if he could use his flames and magic and enchantment on any vehicle.
I'm gonna time out.
That would be badass.
Because in Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, remember Nicolas Cage took over that big digger machine in the second one.
Yeah, that stuff is sick. That's what it should be. Maybe his main ride is the motorcycle, but just throughout, any vehicle, any form of transportation that's around them, he can whip it up and make it cool.
He can do anything but a Cybertruck. That's the rule. No one can make a Cybertruck cool. So that's
because there's also that ancient, not ancient, but there's the older
there is
Ghost Rider that's on a horse, right?
There's an ancient Ghost Rider who actually rides a woolly mammoth in Avengers 1 million BC. And then the
awesome.
horse one.
I gotta Google that.
Yeah, and I believe there's a Ghost Rider 2099. So I'm gonna look that up real fast because I'm pretty sure his was something even different. He can pick different things.
He is on a woolly mammoth. This is cool.
Yeah. Ghost Rider 2099 essentially is a Terminator looking dude. He's got a flame chainsaw instead.
Well, the ancient Ghost Rider, his whip is a spinal cord.
Yeah, right.
Because there's no chains back then. This is cool.
Yeah.
This is what we need Ghost Rider to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun to do. I think one of the missteps that Marvel had early on is, they kind of showed us some historical parts of Marvel, right? Here's Odin and Bor, Odin's father. They flash back to historical things for these old characters. But how fucking cool would it be to see, Ghost Rider, he's not a new demon. Demons have been around for millions of years. So you get to see him do, stuff back, over through the history of the MCU, kind of going forward, he's been there. Same thing, maybe a younger Odin fought him back in, because Avengers 1 million BC is, Odin is in there, like a younger Odin. Ghost Rider, Phoenix, the Phoenix Force is part of that. An Iron Fist is part of that. So it'd be really cool. I think Midnight Suns has a lot of opportunity. I'm excited for this to dive into the darker supernatural side. I don't know if I talked about it with you or somebody else, but like with the advent of Sinners being successful in theater, Mike, do you think Ryan Coogler would take on a Midnight Suns movie? Or be part of that? Like maybe he's not directing it, but maybe he's like helping with it a little bit more. Or Blade.
I mean, it seems like his career is on a rocket ship trajectory. So if that's something he wanted to do, I bet he could make it happen.
Yeah, I think people are probably. I don't think he wants to be known as the vampire guy, right? Was it Peele? Jordan Peele has kind of tied himself into the horror genre a little bit like that. But I think Ryan Coogler, if he's like, yeah, I just did some vampire stuff, I want to help with your Blade and Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider stuff, I'll be a producer on it. I think he'd easily sign up for it and add a little levity, or not levity, but like gravitas to that. But speaking of the mystical side of Marvel, Ironheart's new teaser that's coming out here in like 2 weeks, I think 9 days even, is showing what I didn't really know about Ironheart. I thought she was just going to be building a technical suit. Is that the Hood, or the Red Hood, who's played by Anthony Ramos, will be helping infuse her suit with magic that we've seen in like the Doctor Strange stuff, and that adds a level of intrigue I did not have a week ago about this show. I thought it was going to be her building just suits and parts and upgrading over time, not using magic in her Iron Man suits. Which I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's going to be her idea, but we've only seen her like one other time, right? In the just
Black Panther 2, and she was kind of given her suit. So it's like I feel like everyone's going out of their way to get her out of her own suit, or like embellish it or add extra stuff to it. So if she's getting magic in her suit, I gotta imagine maybe it happens towards the end of the season. I think it's gonna be early on, and then she's gonna find out that whoever has the magic is controlling her in the suit, so she has to build another one that is like magic proof or like not infused with anything. I think the way all the Marvel trailers usually cut is we get to see the first 2 episodes in all the media, and then we get to see the other stuff later. So I think this is gonna be pretty early on. If I was to take the other side of that approach. Because I think there's another suit we've not seen yet cut in these trailers. Like there's going to be like the one, like the final one, right? Like we talk about like, hey, this is the one that she's going to go forward with. It's not the Black Panther suit. So, but I didn't even think for a second that they would infuse technology with magic. Kind of doing the Tony Stark and Doctor Strange mix together in a show, which pretty neat. Hopefully it pays off. And that starts debuting here on June 24th, right around the corner. Shifting gears into Vision Quest, some rumors here in a good way that we've talked about all the actors and actresses they've cast for Vision Quest, right, rather than voice actors, actual actors. And the idea is that they're going to use real actors to reduce the reliance on VFX, and that kind of comes in with the the new Marvel Television approach, where they're like, we want to save money instead of spend money on these things. And without doing VFX and using people, they can get the editing done and release it early 2026, because I'm pretty sure this story will need to be done before the Avengers films. And I'm basing that on that concept art we saw leaked a couple months ago that had like the Vision being roommates with Chris Pratt's Star-Lord character. Well, also, too, like the Vision, his character is so rooted in these past phases of the Avengers. It seems like, we should kind of wrap Vision up before Secret Wars, like at least his like arc in some way. Probably the same with Thor as well. So we're kind of still getting to some of these like lingering characters that we haven't quite give emotional endings to. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Obviously, and I think, obviously, if they're just using practical effects and small minor visual effects touch-ups, that's going to be cool. I still want to see some Ultron and some like Jocasta stuff. I don't think it needs to be everything, but I still want to see some of that stuff. kind of in there as well. But as they kind of keep filming this, I think even though Marvel Studios is skipping SDCC, I think Marvel Television might bring something there and kind of give us a little bit of information on this as well. Avengers Doomsday, this was something I saw right before we hopped on the mic today. The rumor is that Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cumming from the original X2 movie, will get to use his swords in action scenes for the upcoming movie, which we have not seen in live action with him before.
That's fun. I think he busts his swords out in X-Men 97.
Yes, at the end
There's
he uses
with
three swords.
Yeah, and he's kind of like back to back with Wolverine in the X Mansion, and they're like chopping people up.
Yeah, the human Sentinels or whatever. They attack him, and he's like, I'll use my sword, and he's got like one in his tail, like holding by his tail, and the other two in his hands. I think that'd be great because I think Alan Cumming, he has that awesome intro in X2, right, where he's in the White House, and I think he has like a dagger, but like we never really get to see him do his like, I don't want to say swashbuckling thing, but like that'll be so cool to see him use swords and bamf around while he's fighting stuff. So to me, this was a pretty fun news. I'm already envisioning it, and I hope it comes to fruition for the movie. Also, on the fact of Doomsday, I know they've beefed up security based on like what was it, one person on like TikTok like wandered into the entire set one day a month ago. So we've seen very, very little of the sets in the past month, and I think that's why at the end of the day. So if we hear more, we'll let you guys know. Last bit of news to bring this full circle back to Star Wars, Mike. This week was the BFI Film on Film Festival, and they promised we're going to watch an original 1997 version or 1977 version of Star Wars A New Hope here, and it will be devoid of any tinkering. This will be the closest thing you can watch in theaters when it came out in 77. We have a copy, and everyone was like, this is going to get shut down. People are going to get arrested. They're going to get sued for having this. Kathleen Kennedy herself showed up to let everybody know that they endorse people watching this movie on reel at this film festival this weekend, which it's not a surprise necessarily to me. I think we talked about what they had at the was it the Chinese theater there in LA a couple of weeks ago, a screening of it as well. But like, it tells me that maybe Lucasfilm is lessening up the reliance on you have to watch only George's version, and we might be that one step closer to getting the original versions on Disney Plus to watch in the next year or two.
I mean, hell, if they were smart, they would bypass Disney Plus and just release like 4K original film scans, or they could charge $100 easily for those three movies, or charge like $50 for them individually, get $150 out of it. There's so much money to be made if they had these like original these original cuts. Everybody would go buy them. Like anybody who has a Star Wars on their shelf would add them. Be left wanting, and they would need them.
I would do, as much as I hate to say, I would probably do like three nice box sets of like original versions. Maybe not the latest trilogy. I don't care about it, and I don't think they've touched it. But like the first three, I would buy the unaltered box sets as much as possible, and even include like I have version on VHS, which includes like these interviews with Leonard Nimoy with George Lucas before the movie started. I would like include that as like a bonus disc, like all the bonus features. Like we've collected all the versions over the years. Here's Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 in their original versions, in their new versions, in the 1997 theatrical versions, all the interviews, all the makings of. Here's all the other stuff, documentaries along the way. I would love to have that piece of like nostalgia, like just to have it all in one place to go back and look at it, because they did so many cool interviews. They did so many cool conversations about that stuff, and I'd love it. But like, even at the bare minimum, if they were like, hey, on Star Wars, how they have the IMAX versions of like Marvel movies, you can go watch the original Star Wars. Even if they just added that, I think they'd probably get a couple extra subscriptions for a little boost, maybe one a month. The New Hope this month, Empire next month, Return. They probably get a little subscriber boost to watch those, right? As they kind of come on there. So either way, that's fine. And then also they confirmed at the thing that I think they might have the last, if not the only, original print that's being passed around that's probably not in George Lucas's vault or Lucasfilm vault to watch this movie, because they were watching all the movies on reels, not digital scans of this movie, which I think would be really fun experience. I don't think I'd go to the Film on Film Festival, but I think that's a really cool thing that they're still doing out there in these things. Mike, we've made it to the end. Somehow, some way, we did it this week with you here again. Hopefully, you get to come back next week. Stay healthy, my friend. I want you to be coming back. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing in the meantime, where can they find you at?
Yeah, you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or video game systems of the same name. If people want to know more about the show, where they can come see all these links for these videos or anything else, show notes, our upcoming release schedule. We just talked about 3 movies coming out in July. Where can they get all them goodies?
Yes, it's called superheroslate.com. It's a website if you haven't been to one in a while. Superheroslate.com. That's where we have all of our goodies. As Chris was saying, we're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to podcasts. We got merch at superheroslate.com/store. Reach out. Let us know what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're playing, what you're listening to. We love hearing from you, and we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.